So this morning, my girlfriend sends me a text that says, hey, you might want to look into this. And what it is a link to a leukemia drug that is now being offered at Mark Cuban's pharmacy. And yes, you heard that right. Mark Cuban, the billionaire, the Dallas Mavericks owner, the Shark Tank guy, at Mark Cuban's pharmacy at like so much less than it would be, I guess, if I went to my pharmacy. Now, I appreciated that, and I thanked her. It's not a leukemia drug that I take. And I'm on a break from chemotherapy anyway, but I was grateful that she offered that to me. And then I thought, wait, what? Mark Cuban has a pharmacy and he's selling cheaper drugs? What is that all about? So we wanted to get some questions answered out of how that is even possible and how it can benefit you. Paul Seegert is the managing partner at PCS Advisors, which is a benefits consulting firm that has 35 partner offices across the nation. Paul, thank you for coming on and helping us with this one.
Happy to be here.
So just background it for me. How is it that a person, I know he's a billionaire, so he's not a regular person, can open a pharmacy? Like, did he get FDA approval? Who's he negotiating these drug prices with? How did all that happen?
Well, being a billionaire aside, he's a good businessman and an entrepreneur, and
That's true.
It's amazing how long our healthcare kind of portion of our economy and big pharma has kept competition largely out. And we don't have the transparency and the free market forces that we do in the rest of our economy. And what he's doing is going in, I think very smartly, he's going in and it doesn't sound that novel when you describe it. He's going to manufacturers and saying, I'll buy the drug directly from you and then I'll sell it directly to the consumer. I mean, you could rattle off quite a few business models in different industries that have done that and cut out middle players. It's just that the cartel, you might call them, that run our drug business in this country have already beaten the likes of, or in some cases they don't beat them, they join them. If you can't beat them, join them, like Amazon Pharmacy, Berkshire Hathaway, JP Morgan. I mean, you've had some very big players go up against our medical industry and not really make a dent. And why I say smartly is because he's going and purchasing generic drugs directly and then reselling those at a 15% markup over his cost. And so he's edging his way into the industry by starting with drugs that aren't really going to get as much pushback from the pharmaceutical industry because that's not where most of their profits are.
Got it.
Which on the one hand, you might think, well, shoot, why doesn't he attack the real problem? But this is what I do every day, and I'm thinking this actually has a chance to succeed because he's not attacking their big profitability, but if he gets a good foothold going, he then can start to go to these manufacturers of perhaps some of the bigger ticket drugs and say, hey, let's use our model for your drug.
Smart. So
Hey,
smart.
Paul, this is Paul, and thank you for joining us today. I'm happy we have the same names. I'll remember your name. I know how to say it. But it's good to have you here. We don't agree on much these days. I think most Americans agree that we spend way too much on pharmaceuticals, and we spend more, correct me if I'm wrong, than any country on earth. How is it the nation that celebrates competition and capitalism and market forces? I'm picking up on something you said at the very beginning. Why is the system rigged?
Well, because, and it's even more extreme. We don't only spend more than everyone else. We spend wildly more. 70 or 80% of global profits are made here, and for the pharmaceutical industry. And if you look at why that doesn't get fixed, we don't have a free market. And by that, I mean, there's no transparency. So as a consumer, you have no idea what your plan pays for a prescription drug. You know what your copay is, and by design, they've kind of insulated you from seeing that, or else we all be out in the streets really upset. Yeah. And so, that's what's going on, and that's why I think this is so novel, because he's taking those middle players out and saying, I'll buy it at cost and mark it up 15%, where we have, in the current model, if you take out your insurance card and you go buy insulin today, you go down to your local pharmacy and you need insulin. The most commonly prescribed insulin in America is Humalog. Eli Lilly makes the drug. It gets wholesaled, shows up at your pharmacy, and then you show up as a consumer, and all you know is that your copay, according to your health plan, maybe is $30, whatever it is. And what you're not seeing with that transaction is that the health plan that you're a part of, maybe through your employer or wherever, is paying $550 a month, average monthly cost for that. 330 of that is being added by the pharmacy benefit manager that manages the formulary for your health plan, who's supposedly supposed to be advocating for lower cost. 40% of the total is actually supporting the real supply chain. How is that allowed to happen? And really it's because if you look at where Big Pharma, as we call them, donates money politically, it is with laser precision to lawmakers who can prevent any real change from occurring. And that's true on both sides. And it actually changes. If one party's in power, the money shifts. I mean, they're very good at what they do. And as a result, we fund 70 to 80% of global profits. We pay significantly more for drugs. We have a need for free market forces, and that's where the government could come in with some common sense regulation. And their lobbying power has been very effective at preventing it.
Well, Paul, just picking up on what you said, I realize it costs billions of dollars R&D for some of these drugs. Mm-hmm. Big Pharma has to get a return on investment. But every other industry, there's competition, sure, which lowers prices. Right. So you're saying the bottleneck is essentially Congress. And
it is.
We need federal legislation, somebody to pick up the banner and say, we want more competition. We keep having this argument.
Yeah, we do. And here's the real irony. The people that get these precision dollars, the argument they use is, hey, we need to fund R&D. If they can't charge this much, how are we going to get the new life-saving drugs that we all need?
Right.
That's not where most of the waste goes. In fact, the manufacturers that make these drugs often are in a position where their revenue each year declines from the drug while the price increases. It's middle players, these pharmacy benefit managers, as an example. They are, like in the insulin example, a pharmacy benefit manager who manages the formulary for a health plan. Yes, it can be on the list. Here's what your copay is. They're eating up 60% of the cost. They don't do research and development. They don't manufacture anything. They're not a retailer. They're not a wholesaler. They're supposed to be an intermediary that is advocating for us as consumers. But they're clearly, we're pretty far off track. So and I'm a free market person. I believe in free market. I think free market forces are the solution to this. We need to have common sense, transparency, and regulation to allow them to exist.
Right.
So, Paul, I mean, this is fascinating, and we appreciate the education. What can, if anything, the consumer do?
Well, I think this is a step in the right direction. If your drug's on this Mark Cuban cost plus drug company, check it out. And there are employers who are beating this or fixing it every day. They are going out and working with a consultant who can help them clean up the waste in their health plan. And I think that employers are really going to be the solution in the long run overall for healthcare, drugs and otherwise, because they have a responsibility to turn a profit. They really have to care. They can't just print more money to pay for something that's overpriced. They have to make it work by the numbers. And there are pharmacy benefit managers out there that will behave ethically, that will not add 30, 40, 50, 60% waste to the cost of a drug. And so I really call out to the employers out there that are listening to get with a consultant, engage the services of a consultant that can get a pharmacy benefit manager involved in your plan that's going to behave ethically. They'll make a fair profit, but not a disgusting one. And when that happens, they really drive the cost. They cut the cost in half of drugs, and they're going to fix the healthcare system in this country, in my opinion.
Wow.
Fascinating.
Very cool. Yeah.
Yes, there's a lot to unpack here. Paul, we learned a lot. I hope you'll come back on the show, sir.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you,
having
Paul.
me.
Yeah, great job. Paul Seegert is the managing partner at PCS Advisors, which is a benefits consulting firm with 35 partners across the nation.